Hi everybody, my name is Kyle Stratton. I'm the project biologist for the Upper Great Lakes Management Unit for the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry. And this afternoon I'll be speaking to you about the Black Bay Walleye Acoustic Telemetry Project. Black Bay is located between Thunder Bay and Nipigon Bay along the north shore of Lake Superior. Relative to most of Lake Superior, Black Bay is fairly shallow and productive. The major tributary within Black Bay is the Black Sturgeon River. Located on the Black Sturgeon River, approximately 17 kilometers upstream from the mouth is the Camp 43 Dam. This dam was built in the late 1950s, early 1960s to control water levels and facilitate log drives. However, in recent years, it's only functioned as an overhead weir that prevents all fish passage. The spawning habitat study performed on the Black Sturgeon River found that approximately 80% of spawning habitat within the river was located upstream of the Camp 43 Dam. This is an area of the river that's been inaccessible to Lake Superior walleye and other migratory fish for decades. Construction of the Camp 43 Dam was thought to be a contributing factor to the decline in the Black Bay walleye populations, along with commercial overfishing. At one time, approximately 90% of commercially harvested walleye in Lake Superior came from Black Bay. The maximum sustainable yield at the time was thought to be around 50,000 kilograms. And as you can see from this green line, we were far exceeding that amount being harvested for many years. The commercial fishery was closed in the early 1970s. Since then, there have been numerous stocking events and regulatory changes implemented in an attempt to help recover the walleye population within Black Bay. Some of the regulatory changes include the closure of the walleye recreational fishery north of Bent Island, which is approximately the northern half of the bay, as well as the Black Sturgeon River up to the Camp 43 Dam. A commercial perch fishery that began after the walleye fishery closed was also closed in the early 2000s due to concerns over walleye bycatch. Since 2002, fall walleye index netting has taken place on Black Bay, and although this program hasn't happened annually, the results do indicate that walleye abundance has increased in Black Bay since 2002. The first objective of this project was to describe residency and/or migration of Black Bay walleye. So are walleye staying within Black Bay year-round? Are they staying within the walleye sanctuary for a considerable period of the year? Or are they entirely leaving Black Bay? The second objective was to identify timing and location of spawning walleye. So are walleye mostly spawning within the Black Sturgeon River? Are they spawning within other tributaries in Black Bay? Or are they spawning within Black Bay itself? The third objective was to determine the proportion of the population that would benefit from increased spawning habitat within the Black Sturgeon River. These first three objectives could help inform fisheries management of the recovering Black Bay walleye population. For receiver deployment, we deployed as many receivers as we could through the ice in March. For us, the benefit of deploying as many receivers as we can through the ice is that we can get an idea of where walleye are staging, and we can have a portion of our receivers at least ready so that as soon as ice is off the lake, we're able to detect walleye movement. Our past results have shown that there's quite a bit of walleye movement that happens essentially simultaneously with ice cover being off the lake. So having receivers in place prior to that allows us to capture that movement. For receivers that weren't deployed through the ice, they were simply deployed from a boat in April once all the ice was off the lake. Receiver retrieval, that happened between mid-September and mid-October from a boat. We did not tag any walleye in 2021. Our last tagging event was in 2020, where we tagged an additional 35 walleye, which brought our estimated number of walleye currently live prior to the 2021 season to 157. We deployed 122 receivers in 2021. Our array configuration was largely an expansion built off our consistent result from the previous 4 years. For example, we deployed 66 receivers in the northwest corner of Black Bay as part of our VPS array. Our arrays from 2016 to 2019 consistently indicated that this area of Black Bay was a congregation area for walleye leading up to the spawn and what we anticipate as being the spawning period as well. In 2020, we deployed a VPS array in the same area, but due to COVID, it was limited to only 17 receivers. so that VPS array likely wasn't large enough to fully cover the area that we wanted, which is why we increased our VPS array size so much year over year. The next area I'd like to draw your attention to is the Bent Island Gate, which is circled in green. As you'll remember, the area to the north of this gate represents the Walleye Sanctuary, along with the Black Sturgeon River up to the Camp 43 Dam, while the remaining area is open to walleye fishing by recreational anglers, permitting that the season is open. Moving west of Black Bay now, we deployed a number of receivers within Thunder Bay in areas of interest where anglers have reported catching walleye or where we've caught walleye in other projects. Thunder Bay does have its own walleye population, but results from our prior arrays have shown that approximately 10% of our tagged Black Bay walleye migrate towards Thunder Bay annually. But what we didn't know was the extent in which these walleye entered Thunder Bay or which areas of the bay they were using. This is why we deployed the receivers that are circled in blue, which represented new areas in which we deployed receivers for the first time in 2021. Moving east of Black Bay to Nipigon Bay now, the rationale for receiver deployment location was fairly similar to that of Thunder Bay, with new receiver locations for 2021 circled in yellow. Once again, our results from prior years consistently showed that some walleye leave Black Bay and travel towards Nipigon Bay, although to a lesser extent than that of Thunder Bay. Receivers that detected at least one walleye during the 2021 season are shown as green circles, whereas receivers that did not detect any walleye during the 2021 season are depicted as red diamonds. The interesting thing here is that none of our walleye went into the Nipigon Straits or Nipigon Bay, suggesting that the Nipigon Bay walleye population may be discrete from the Black Bay and Thunder Bay populations. These results are consistent with genetic analysis and marker capture work that indicated that the Black Bay and Nipigon Bay walleye populations are in fact distinct. 138 of the 157 walleye that were tagged and presumed to be alive prior to the start of the 2021 season were detected on at least one receiver. Of the walleye that were detected north of Bent Island during the spawning period, approximately 2/3 of them left the sanctuary at one point during the year, most commonly in the late spring and early summer months. Every walleye that was detected outside of Black Bay was previously detected within Black Bay earlier in the year. This suggests that while a portion of the Black Bay walleye do migrate outside of the bay, Black Bay itself is still an integral area for at least the early parts of the year for this population, most likely for spawning purposes. For the Black Sturgeon River, an important note is that in 2020, the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks determined that the Camp 43 dam was to be repaired. This was following a multi-year study that examined the future of this dam. The Camp 43 dam has since been repaired. For the number of unique walleye detected at each receiver within the Black Sturgeon River, our results have once again shown that a very small proportion of the total number of tagged walleye that migrate up the Black Sturgeon River reach the Camp 43 dam. Of the 77 tagged walleye that we consider to migrate up the Black Sturgeon River, only 6 of them reached the Camp 43 dam in 2021. A common trend that has appeared in our results on an annual basis is a significant decrease in the number of walleye detected upstream of a large set of rapids relative to the number of walleye detected slightly downstream from these rapids. One reason for this could be that this particular set of rapids present the walleye with good spawning habitat, so after they reach this area and spawn, they wouldn't have a need to go any further upstream to spawn. Results from our expanded VPS array in the northern portion of Black Bay provided a great visual representation of the two different strategies we see walleye using during the spawning period. The first strategy, seen here on the left of your screen, represents the walleye that remain in the northwest corner of Black Bay throughout the entirety of the spawning period. These walleye, which represent slightly less than half of all of our detected walleye, appear to congregate in a relatively small area, at least compared to Black Bay, and in fairly high densities. In an attempt to determine if these walleye are spawning on shoals within Black Bay, we deployed egg mats within this circled area. Although we were unsuccessful at capturing any walleye eggs, I don't think this rules out the possibility that these fish are spawning in this location, as the surface area of our egg mats was minuscule relative to this area. We've taken genetic samples from some of these walleye, which will also be analyzed to see if any of them are descendants from walleye that were previously stocked in Black Bay that came from inland lakes where known shoal spawning walleye existed. Additionally, There's historical anecdotal evidence that suggests that a large number of walleye within Black Bay did exhibit shoal spawning. Eventually, this group of walleye disperses once the fish that migrated up the Black Sturgeon River return to the lake environment. This leads us to the second strategy, seen on the right side of your screen, which represents walleye that migrated up the Black Sturgeon River during the spawning period. The walleye that migrate up the Black Sturgeon River do so almost immediately following ice out and when the water warms up to approximately 1 degree Celsius. As there was still ice on the lake and river in early April last year, what we're most likely seeing in this visual for migratory group of walleye is where they were staging prior to going up the river. Past results from active tracking, as well as our VPS results, show that upon leaving the Black Sturgeon River, the migratory walleye and the walleye that remain in Black Bay start cruising the shoreline between the Black Sturgeon River and the Wolf River. This trend continues for a couple of weeks until the majority of the walleye start heading south along the western shore of Black Bay. One of the main takeaways from the project thus far is that walleye movement patterns in Black Bay appear to be fairly consistent year over year. For example, we've seen that migration does happen, with approximately 25 to 30% of our tagged fish leaving Black Bay on an annual basis. We've also seen that there is a concentration of walleye north of Bent Island, primarily in the northwest corner of Black Bay, in the early spring months, which is followed by a rapid shift south of the fish following the spawning period. We've also discovered that not all walleye spawn in the Black Sturgeon River. Every year, it appears as though 50 to 60% of our tagged individuals actually run the Black Sturgeon River in the springtime, while only 2 to 7% of walleye that enter the Black Sturgeon River actually reach the Camp 43 dam. So the next steps for us for telemetry are going to be to shift our focus away from Black Bay walleye towards Cisco tagging, which has started fairly recently. The array that you see before you is the first draft of the proposed array for the Cisco telemetry project, but by no means does this array have to be limited to just Cisco. Because of the size of the array and the diversity within the environments that this array would encompass, there is a lot of potential here to answer some questions about a multitude of different species within our area. Lastly, I'd just like to thank all the different agencies and individuals who have helped this project since its inception in 2016, and thank you all for listening.